three. Johnny Walker. Matching up against control. His shot. Real score, they score. They tie the game up 2-2. Some drives out for Robbie Ryan. Her three right on the money. This is Taya Hansen for three. Other side of the rim with a pretty reverse. Wow. 5 seconds to go. Find Hawk. Hawk spins. It rolls off. And Arizona State wins it. Edwards pulls off. And buries the puck. Daniels takes the shot for Kirby.
Welcome into Pitchfork Lunch. Yes, I am Michael Caratenuto at Diablo00 on Twitter. You know that. That's where you can find me. Yes, check out this one. Yeah, that's right. That's where you can find me on Twitter, the show as well. Also, Facebook, YouTube. Subscribe to the YouTube. I know you Pitchfork Lunchers hear me say this every day, but I'm putting it out there every day to get everybody on board. To get everybody on board, because if you missed a show, you missed interviews, and you've missed quite a few. The Pac-12, again, congrats to JJ Van Niel, ASU women's first-year head coach, first-year women's head coach for the volleyball team, but not his obviously first coaching job. But nonetheless, voted on by his peers as the Pac-12 Coach of the Year. Like I said, we've had him on twice. And if you've missed any of the interviews or the shows, you can go to my YouTube. It's at M as in Michael, V as in Victory, C as in Cat 005 on YouTube. Subscribe. And believe me, I've been blessed enough to graduate from this fine, phenomenal institution. Also, yes, to be an alum, but to get to cover it. And yes, covering it even when I covered high schools, JUCO ranks, like a lot of players that went on to my alma mater, which again, I figured, you know what, why not start a Homer show and we can go from there. But that is how you see it. So we're getting to it right away today, because this next guest, again, subscribe to the YouTube. If you miss any of this, which again, like I say, shame on you, but being a Sun Devil, I'm prepared. I got you covered. But this next guest, I have been so blessed to have known for quite a few years now. And it's funny how time flies by, but it just seems like it stands still at the same time too. He's ASU's assistant head coach and special teams coordinator, Charlie Ragle, making his Pitchfork Lunch debut with me here. Coach, man, I appreciate the time, as always. And I got to start off with this. At the Arizona game, getting to see you on the field, I ran into your wife and daughter. And Coach, there he is.
Sorry.
Oh, that's all right. And it's been a minute since I've seen them, so I know for you, when you obviously with your wife, but when you see your kids grow up, because and I'm not picking on you, Coach, because that makes me older too. But the last time I saw your daughter, she was a little tiny. But
it's crazy.
I mean,
it's crazy
like
how fast it goes, man. That's for sure.
I know it, and like I said, I mean, it's just the other day. It feels like I was sitting out at practice at Chaparral talking to you before the regular season or a playoff game. And, here you are obviously finishing up your first season as assistant head coach at ASU. I want to start with this, because last time we talked, I mean, obviously, like we said, you coached at Moon Valley, you were at Chaparral, but that 1 year that you were a grad assistant at ASU, I want to say back in 2006, I mean, what did you – obviously you want to get to the next level, and a lot of coaches want to stay in high school. Coaches want to get to college, stay in college, go pro. But what did you learn that 1 year, that takeaway in 2006? I mean, did that really start getting the hunger going more for wanting to get into college football?
Well, I'd always had a burning desire in me that I wanted to coach at the college level. And, when I got the opportunity to come to Arizona State and work with Dirk Cutter, it was just a dream come true. And obviously to be here for about 13 months, 12 and a half months, whatever it was. And for that dream to get cut short, was was disheartening for sure. But that's the way the business goes, and so then you had to assess my options. And obviously at the time, I'm 29 years old. My best option was, that I'd been offered the chaparral head job, and I was going to go do that. And the things that I learned at Arizona State, though, in that 12 and a half months are really the cornerstones of what have set my career in motion, so to speak. And I just, I have tremendous respect and love for Dirk Cutter and the opportunity that he gave me. But most importantly, the stuff that I took away from watching his program for that year, just the organization, the discipline, just the attention to detail, the things that mattered. And, to this day, I regard him as one of the best coaches that I've ever worked with. And it was an awesome experience. And again, I took that stuff and used it as building blocks to move my career forward.
No, absolutely. I mean, the when I got to be, doing some interviews going out to ASU, just talking to Coach Cutter, I mean, it was very, very interesting. The only thing I might push back a little bit, Coach, is he liked to schedule those afternoon games in the beginning of the season to melt those other teams, which, as you know, is a good home field advantage. But the fans in the stands melt a little bit too. But no, I love Coach Cutter. I mean, I thought, again, when he coming here from Boise State and just getting to be a little bit that I was around him, and the fact, like you said, that you were there, and coaching, I want to go with this too, because coaching is obviously, you look at the coaching and say there's a lot of coaches, but it truly is a small community. Now, I know, obviously throughout the years when you were in high school, you had some players go up to NAU, but I mean, I know they let go of Chris Ball. Just kind of your thoughts on Coach Ball, because I mean, like I said, he did a heck of a job up there. I mean, it's just a very unique place, and I'm not saying unique because it is a smaller school, yeah, but it's just kind of a unique place, and I think a little bit of a tougher place to recruit to. How do you feel about like Coach Ball and just the job he did at NAU?
Well, I think first of all, I know Chris personally, and I have a tremendous amount of respect for him. First and foremost, as a person, as a man. We've got to share some great conversations. Obviously, the year that I spent in the Big Sky at Idaho State and him at NAU, we played each other. We did the Big Sky Media Weekend together. But I'd known Chris prior to that as well. But I think our relationship grew tighter, and he was the guy that was always there as I took the job at Idaho State to say, hey, like, if you need something, man, here I am, like, just here's my number, call me. And so, I got a tremendous amount of respect for him. And, I'm a coach, man. And when guys lose their jobs, that's, that's not easy, and you hurt for guys that have lost their jobs. I mean, I get it from a fan's perspective, but behind, those coaches, there's families, there's wives, there's kids, and it's not that easy. And so, first and foremost, I feel for him and his family. And then there's the reality of what we signed up for. On the other side is the expectation is they want you to win. And, I think the reality is that, regardless of the outcome, I think, when you look at, and it's the same thing that I told the folks at Idaho State when I interviewed for that job, the reality of when you look at historically a place for, 20, 30 years, I think that's a fair amount of time to assess a program.
Right.
What are the results that have transpired in those 20 to 30 years? And if they're similar, right, then is it truly a coaching problem, or is it more of a systemic problem within, the university? Expectations match the resources that you're given. And I don't know at NAU, I'm not privy to that information, and I'm not saying it does or it doesn't. I'm just, speaking generally, that's the reality of it. And, those are things that, obviously, I think those are the world that coaches live in, and somehow, some way, you got to find a way to rise above what is the norm and break out of that cycle of repetitiveness when it has been average over the course of time. And what he didn't, and obviously in their mind, he didn't turn the corner. And again, there's a lot of facets that you got to look at, and there's a lot of facts and information that I'm not, privy to. So I don't know. I'm not going to pretend to assess the job he did, because, I think when you really look to do that, there is, it's an all encompassing. It's easy just to look at the win-loss record and say, oh, well, he did this or he didn't do that. That's easy. Anybody can do that, but there's a much deeper dive that has to go into it. To truly assess what one's value is and the job that one did. And so, at the end of the day, Chris is a friend, and I wish him nothing but the best. And I got a lot of respect for Mike Marlowe there at NAU as well. And I wish Mike all the success in the world as he moves on to find his next head coach.
And let me piggyback off that, because obviously what NIL, and you and I have talked about that before the season. I mean, talked about that back at the Super Bowl, but with what, NIL is now, it's a part of college sports. But at the FCS level, and again, not that there's not money there, because when I talk about it on the show, I'll get tweets all the time. And I use that great quote from White Men Can't Jump, Coach, when Wesley Snipes said to Woody Harrelson, he goes, no, you listen to Jimi Hendrix. You don't hear Jimmy. People might listen to me. They're not hearing what I'm saying. I'm not saying that FCS schools are poor. I'm just saying, but with the NIL and the way it comes in, not that the challenge of, yes, you're focusing in on athletes. You're trying to get the best athletes to your program. But how much does the NIL affect FCS recruiting in your eyes? I mean, obviously you dealt with it. You see it. But, I mean, what's the biggest challenge there with the NIL and FCS? Because, again, the dollars might not obviously be the same as the FBS level.
Well, I think first and foremost, what people have to understand is it's all relative, right? It's all relative in the world that you live in, right? My father used to say, in the valley of the blind, the one eye is king.
You're right.
And so it's all relative to your perspective. And, how you view recruiting at Northern Arizona, at Idaho State, or in the Big Sky in general, versus how recruiting is viewed and handled at Arizona State are two different ballparks.
Right.
And, and as you climb the ladder of the food chain in the FBS, how Georgia views recruiting and how Arizona State views recruiting is night and day.
Right.
Those are two different leagues, and so you have to every piece is relative.
Right.
And so, I think, and then you really get into the NIL and the portal and how that it's a trickle down effect that ultimately gets down and reaches to the FCS.
Right.
You know what I mean? So, do they have NIL money there? Excuse me. Do they have cost of attendance there? Those are, again, questions I don't have the answers to, but you know what? I know the things that we had available to us at Idaho State. And then based off of that, you've got to formulate a plan that gives you the best chance to win with the tools and resources that you have. And then I think you have to take that a step further, and you have to ask yourself, okay, here's the tools and resources that I have at my respective institution. Is that good enough to win here? And if it's not, then one of two things has to happen. They have to be willing to give you more resources, allow you the ability to acquire more resources, or you have to say, look, this is not the place for me. I have to move on and cut bait. Like it's that simple.
Right.
And and some of those things, obviously you'd like to have all of those things discussed before you take the job, but the reality is it doesn't always work that way.
Right. All right. So let's get in. Obviously, getting to see you quite a bit this season, and it was tough. And you and I were I was talking to you and kind of joking around, saying, Coach Dillingham said every week after the injuries that nobody cares. And I said we could soften the nobody cares with not everybody's rooting for injuries, but like you and I said, I mean, other teams, like you said to me, other teams have their own problems, so you still got to roll. Oh, I lost coach. Coach. All right. Well, hopefully we can get coach back. I just can. Hopefully coach can jump back on. Lost him for a second there, but no, and heard him there, and I had to get the FCS question in because he had definitely I mean, NIL is a factor, and look, kids going there. Yes, I'm not saying they're gonna, like he's saying, it's all relative. Like, are there resources there? Yes, the amount that you need, and again, it's not asking for an over amount of it. But but I mean, that's the thing. It all comes down to, yes. And there he is. I talked about throughout the season how, with NIL, it's not that you're going to sit there and be, if a kid's just talking about that in recruiting, coaches are going to know, like, they might not have a desire to do it. But there he is. He's back. Coach Ragle.
Sorry about that.
No worries. No worries. But I was going to say to you, I mean, with the injuries, this year, obviously it was tough. And you and I, when I was talking to you, you said, every team has their own problems. So it's, again, not that, and I understood what Coach Dillingham was saying. I kind of say it in jest, like, not that anybody doesn't care. I definitely care about not rooting for injuries. But, man, in the season you just had, and again, going 3-9, it's tough. But in something like that, where, yes, it is next man up, you're developing players. In an odd way, how does it help a team going forward? How does it help you as coaches? How does it help going forward with having a very a trying season and a tough season like this?
Well, I think it only helps you if you step back and you learn from it. I mean, it's no different than a little boy burning his finger on the stove, right? Only helps them as if that pain hurts him enough to recognize that when that stove is hot, I don't touch it again. Right. So, I think that when you talk about injuries, I don't know that that's something that you can necessarily control from a player standpoint. But are there things that we can look at as a coaching staff and as players that have, direct effect on the program and say, hey, these are the things that transpired over the course of the season. Here's what we like. Here's what we didn't like. Let's focus on the positives, and let's get rid of the negatives, and let's use this as a learning experience and allow it to allow us ourselves to be better because of it. Then absolutely it can be, but it only will be is if we sit back, assess the things properly, we're honest with ourselves in our evaluation, and then we use those lessons to move forward and be better because of it.
And then I know last year, obviously, when you guys got in, I said it to you multiple times, but it's true, and I've said it on the show. You had to basically, when a new staff coach gets hired, new staff gets hired, you had to usually you'll hit the ground running anyway, but you guys hit the ground at an Olympic sprinter's pace, with obviously spring ball coming up and just getting players in. But now to have a full off season, and yes, with the transfer portal, and you have to see who's going to enter and who might be available, but now having a full off season and addressing the needs you to address. Yes, I know it's a very good thing, but how important is it to have that full off season now, after the season. But what kind of advantages and especially in recruiting does it bring to you in having this like I said, full off season?
Well, I think first and foremost, I think when you take over a program, there's a lot of jockeying for position, if you will, and kids trying to present themselves in the best light that puts them, at the top.
Right.
Everybody's positioning themselves to look the best. I think the reality is that once you go through a full calendar year, and you go through a season, football exposes you for who you really are.
Yep.
And time and truth will always prevail. And so what it does is it gives you as a coach and as a player to see the coaches. How do these guys respond in tough situations? Are they who they say they are? Do they practice like do they play like they practice? Do they do the things that they say they're going to do when the situation gets tough? And, everybody's down on them and the pressure is unmerciful. How do they respond? And I'm talking both ways. As a coach, how do you respond to that?
Yep.
And as a player, how do you respond to that? And then ultimately, okay, what you have to do now as the head coach, you have to assess. There is no more fooling the head coach.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? You can't put on a pretty face. You are who you are. He's seen it for a year. He knows who you are, and you know who he is. And now we have to make, and he has to make the best decisions in his mind to move the program forward. And I think you see more changes. In my belief, if you're doing it right, you're going to see more changes after the first year than you would in the original year one, because there is no more hiding what it is.
Right.
It is what it is. We know what it is. And now it's time, okay, to take the things that we like and utilize those. The things we didn't like, fix those, and then move this thing forward. But we all know who we are now.
Right. Which, again, identifying it early, I always it's just funny how coaching, just in general, coaching in life, because even in different sports, I always had, and I played for my uncle, but just different coaches I had too, was saying, like, once you know who you are, to your point, how are you gonna do your very best to get to that level? Because like you said, you can show him a million things. Like my uncle, you say, you can lead the horse to water. Can't force him to drink it. But special teams wise, I mean, obviously you had, at Arizona, at Cal, a lot of success. And I mean, Dario came over, I think had a solid season, but return wise, I mean, it's when you guys actually got a chance to return the ball, because everybody blasting, the ball through the end zone, getting rid of one of my favorite plays, the kickoff. But your overall thought of how, again, with your special teams adjusted throughout the year, because like you said to me, I mean, with injuries, it comes, some guys can come in, some guys, you might not have on special teams. You got to fill other guys in, but just your overall thought of how that group in general just battled all year for you.
Yeah, I think, you have to look at it in each different phase, right? I think when you look at the numbers, and then you got to have a real discussion of how did they perform. I think, when you talk about our kick returns, you know what? We ended up leading the Pac-12 in kickoff return average. Again, when we had the opportunities, I think we made the most of them. Towards the end of the season, we saw some pretty good kickers and saw some guys that wanted to kick away from us a little bit at times too. But I thought that was a very positive attribute for us in the special teams realm. I thought as the year went on in the punt return game, I thought that Melquan Stovall only got better.
Yeah.
I think we finished in the top 4 in return average. Now, what you'd like to see there is, you should really average about a return and a half per game. You play 12 games, you should have roughly around 18 returns. Now, there's a lot of different factors that go into that. The last 2 games, Arizona and Oregon didn't punt a whole lot this season. You know what I mean? On average, I think Oregon was averaging 2 punts a game, and Arizona was averaging 3. So there's a lot of different factors on how many returns you get. But we finished with a 10-yard average return. Which is anytime you go double digits in the return on punt return, that was a positive. And so I feel good about the return game. We were dominant in our kickoff defense. We really were. We didn't give up any explosive kick returns against us. I think we finished 3rd in the league and top 20 in the country. So I was very pleased with that. The one that's the black eye is obviously our net punt was not very good. And that's probably the one that stands out the most, right, to fans is being able to flip the field. And if you're not, as explosive on offense, then you need to be able to flip the field. And that was a hindrance for us. No sugarcoating about it. Obviously, Josh getting hurt early on and struggling a little bit. And then, we kind of had a hodgepodge of guys. I thought Ian Hershey came in and as a combo guy, punting being his second, his second emphasis, right? He's primarily a kicker. I thought he did an admirable job, but again, we wanted to redshirt Hershey, and so we played him in the 4 games, and we tried to manage that. I thought Dario did an admirable job coming in, and helping us, but I do think that affected him field goals a little bit. I think Dario finished at 69% on the season in field goal makes. We had 2 blocked, which is unacceptable. When you look at those numbers, you really want to be an elite field goal kicker, needs to be in the 80% range. And, he missed those 2 that got blocked. Those 2 cost him from being in the 70% range, which is a solid year. And then when you get to the 80s and 90s, you had an elite year. And, he missed a couple towards the end that certainly could have helped us and lost some momentum. He had a solid year, but I would have liked him to finish a little bit, higher, converting a couple of those field goals. But, again, I think when you look at it, from a 50,000-foot view, there's things that we've got to get better at, most certainly. But I felt like overall on a 3-9 football team, that it was a solid year. But we've got to, we're just like the rest of our football team, offensively, defensively. We've got to be improved in order for us to compete at a high level and win in the Big 12.
Well, I got to ask you this one too, because Cam Scattaboo being the punt, pass, and kick champ of the team. He got off on those short punts. He got off some good ones with the left foot. But what's the? For people to see it, like, we've seen quarterbacks throughout history, do it to kind of take that quick punt. But what are some of the challenges in and of that? Because it's not like the full 18 yards back, the snap and the punt. So and it seemed like Cam executed that pretty well.
Well, I think, you risk protection issues when that happens, right? Because you have an offense out there and you're not necessarily in a true punt protection. And then, as you saw the year go on, they started to roll guys back there, right, for returns against us. And when that happens, you don't have a full punt team covering the punts. And so there's some things that we were able to manufacture and avoid a lot of that, but it certainly it's something that looks a lot easier than it is to get that stuff executed. But I thought we did a really good job with that, and I thought that Cam did a nice job as well.
All right, so Coach, I'll get you out of here on this one. Obviously, the holidays coming up, and I jokingly always say to you coaches the off season, because they're really, especially in college with recruiting and everything. But what is your next few weeks, next few months before spring ball look like for Coach Ragle?
Well, we've got, obviously we're into the heavy recruiting season. The portal's going to open up on Monday. We've got official visits kicking off this weekend. So it is a bevy of things all in recruiting wise for the next few weeks up until signing date on Wednesday. I believe that's the 20th of December.
Mm-hmm.
And then, after that, we'll be able to shut it down a little bit and have spend the holidays with our family and relax a little bit into January. And And then, you know what, mid-January, that recruiting cranks right back up again, and we'll go hard for another month in recruiting. And then obviously you get into February, which is a dead period, and a little bit more downtime for the coaches. And really the best month of the year is February, because everything's on a standstill, you know, in terms of recruiting and so forth. So you get to catch your breath there. And then you get into March, and, you know, spring break and cranking, you know, right around the corner from that is back to spring football. So there'll be some good downtime, some good family time, and I'm certainly looking forward to that. But, you know, right now all eyes are on the prize of making sure that we put the best group of recruits together and sign the best players, so that we can move this program forward in year two and continue an upward trajectory of where we want this program to be in you know, the next couple of years.
Well, absolutely, Coach. And again, I always say, like, having the pitchfork lunch mojo, because JJ Van Neal, who just won volleyball's Pac-12 Coach of the Year in his first season, I told him it's all like 99.9999% his coaching, their skill and talent, but it's the 0.0001% pitchfork lunch mojo. So you know me.
I need all that mojo I can get, baby.
Hey, but honestly, it was great. It was great seeing the family again. You know, I always appreciate it. Thank you so much for jumping on, and yes, enjoy the rest of recruiting, the holiday season, and hopefully we can catch up soon, Coach.
Always, Michael. You're the best, man. I appreciate everything you do for ASU football, man, and I'll talk to you soon. Take care.
Awesome. Thanks, Coach. And that is Charlie Ragle right there. And again, always taking the time, even since I knew him. Like I told you guys a story here on Pitchfork Lunch, like when Coach Dillingham was his offensive coordinator way back when at Chaparral, and he had to go do something. He's like, "Oh, here, talk to," and that's the first time I talked to Coach Dillingham. And I said, "You probably don't remember." I go, you know, being an interview nerd, I kind of, you know, geek out about these things, but no, you heard him right there. I mean, it is literally, I mean, the downtime with the family. And like I said, running into his wife and his daughter at the game, I was like, holy wow, stop growing up, you know? And I know it's, you know, cheesy parent talk, but still, like, it's like he said, the time does go by fast. But yeah, I mean, look, you heard it right there. There are positives to take from a 3-9 season. It is tough. The injuries are a part of the game. Coach Dillingham, obviously Coach Ragle talking through him. And you saw, you know, how to obviously played sound from practice quite a few times throughout the season. But, you know, guys got to step up and play. I mean, CJ Fight jumped in on special teams. They needed to fill and a defensive line. Not that defensive lineman can't play special teams. I'm just saying he had to jump in a role, and he did it, no problem. You know, and we didn't even get into it. I mean, working with the defensive, you know, working with the defensive line, the ends, as he was working with, and, you know, working with alongside Vince Amy, Sun Devil alum, obviously. So it was, look, I mean, it is tough, but believe me, going in the mirror and looking and knowing what they need to do and truly evaluating. Yes, some players aren't going to be. And again, in this day and age of the transfer portal, you know, you wish them nothing but the best. Yes, you obviously recruited them. You brought them in here. You want them to stay. But, you know, it's free agency in college football. You know, Herm said it, and a lot have said it, but Herm said it's free agency in college football. And, you know, we'll see who goes. Chris Cartman, friend of the program, you know, once for the holidays, I'm going to aim, because his schedule is insane, obviously, with hoops going on, basketball going on too, but recruiting season and transfer portal. But I'm gonna reach out to him and have time and set up something after recruiting, just to talk about, obviously, guys that hit the portal. Why? Yes, you know, the 3-9 record. Finding out, you know, in fall camp, late in fall camp, that they weren't going to be bowl eligible. You know, it's one of those things. But inevitably, I mean, and it was a season, and the coaches grinded. And, you know, like I said, I mean, I tip my cap to them all year. They came out with the energy. I mean, if you saw Coach Ragle on special teams, you know, yes, coaching guys up, but also, you know, if not appreciating the effort, the guys knew. And like you said, the kick return, I mean, Coach Aquano and even Coach Wade back there working with the returners. and he's like you said, Melquan Stovall. I mean, punting wise, did have a thing. Elijah Badger on kickoffs had a very solid year on special teams, and it's there are good building blocks on, like you said, all sides of the ball, offense, defense, and special teams to build on. There are huge building blocks to build on. And I always love picking his brain. Even asking about Coach Ball, like I say, because these coaches, it is there are a lot of coaches, but it is a small community. Literally, I mean, it is 6 degrees of separation. So very, again, so appreciative of his time this time of year, but he, hit a lot there, and we'll get more into it, obviously, as the offseason goes on, get into basketball. But I'm going to step aside real quick. We get back. We're going to hear sound yesterday from Alonzo Gaffney from ASU Men's Hoops and head coach Bobby Hurley about, just the start of the season, obviously, Vegas and Thanksgiving, the tough game that was against BYU, the beautiful recovery, the nice recovery that was against Vanderbilt. We'll hear about that and their game coming up tonight. So I'll step aside real quick, but more coming up here on Pitchfork Lunch. Welcome back to Pitchfork Lunch. Yes, I am Michael Caratonino at Diablo00 on Twitter. Is where you can find me. And you see the show on Facebook, but YouTube. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. It's at M as in Michael, V as in Victory, C as in Cat, 005 on YouTube. And if you just missed the interview with Coach Ragle, again, shame on you, but that's why I got you covered. Check it out on YouTube. Check it back out here on Twitter. Follow me on Twitter at Diablo00. Questions, thoughts, concerns, all that fun stuff. So I mean, it's one of those things where like I said, if you miss it, and again, Pac-12 Coach of the Year, J.J. Van Niel in women's volleyball, and they are getting set to play Georgia in Provo, and the Devils, I mean, have a very good shot. And then they would face, if they win and BYU or win, they would face BYU, a little home matchup there. In Provo, Friday and Saturday. They get to the Sweet 16 though. They will be playing at Stanford, the rubber match, and yes, would love to see that. Again, both teams showing that the sky's the limit, and the Devils can do it. So, nonetheless, I will say this, and 5 Pac-12 teams, by the way, in the tournament. I mentioned Stanford, Oregon, ASU, Washington State, and USC. There should be 6. UCLA should be there, but whatever. conversation for another show, another time. But like I said yesterday, the men's basketball team is getting set to take on Sam Houston State, and you know, they were in Vegas for, you know, the Thanksgiving invitational there, and they took on BYU. And yes, I talked about that yesterday. They got beat, and BYU was just, I mean, it was raining for threes from them. And you know, Coach Hurley, he addressed this yesterday, but I'm going to play it for you live here on Pitchfork Lunch, as I do. But yeah, I mean, talking about that game against BYU, and then what the offense has been to this point, he touches on that. Also, you know, the recovery against Vanderbilt, how he saw it, and yeah, I mean, and even addressing obviously Sam Houston State tonight as they take on the Devils at Desert Financial Arena. And you know, this is a team that's 4-3. Is Sam Houston State. They have wins over Pacific, Troy, Grambling, and Paul Quinn. That was part of the Trojan Classic at Troy. And they have losses. They lost to Utah Valley in overtime, 79-73. They lost 85-70 to Oklahoma State. Ole Miss was a one-possession game. They lost 70-67. So, yeah, it's a team that, again, the bright, they're not going to be deer in headlights with the bright lights. Let's just put it at that. Against ASU, but yeah, let's hear from Coach Hurley first, and then we'll also get to hear from Alonzo Gaffney, who was 5 for 7 from behind the arc. From behind the arc for ASU in that Vanderbilt game. But without further ado, here is Coach Hurley talking about today's game and wrapping up Thanksgiving.
Quite a difference in your last couple of games. I'm sure that you thought that the guys were far below what would be expected for an offensive and shooting standpoint. What was it like kind of going through that and then having the breakout that you did?
Yeah, I was concerned about that game because of you know, the injuries and BYU's physicality, and you know, they were returning 8 players, which was always a plus. They had a number of players that were averaging over 9 points a game. I believe it was 8 players, which is crazy, and that just means that they are committed to sharing the ball and playing together, and they've built that unity. We're still you know, a work in progress in that department. We're far behind BYU, and that score was an indicator of that. But it was encouraging to see the guys respond. You know, we were, I would say, tough on the team after with our comments to the group, but we really didn't. We just focused on ourselves. We didn't really talk much about Vanderbilt that whole day, and just wanted to see how the group would respond, and I think they did in a positive way.
So how do you feel just generally about the offense right now?
I feel there are signs of you know, what I see in practice from you know Alonzo Gaffney had a hot hand, and I've seen him do that plenty of times. I'm hoping that could be something that's more consistent. Just getting used to play with Jose and utilizing his skill set, getting him the ball where he could make plays, and he I thought moved the ball very well early in the game. Got guys some shots. You know, there's some nice pieces there. The puzzle is not complete, but Jemiah, I think, took a step in his last game offensively. Thought Bryant provided, you know, good energy. You know, we just had sound possessions of offense. I think the first possession of the game, Bryant had a layup on just simply moving the ball, changing sides, and taking what the defense gives you. We didn't do anything crazy. You know, we took, you know, pretty good shots for the most part, and you know, moved the ball fairly well.
And Coach, I mean, I know you've talked about your out of conference schedule, but a game like BYU, the challenge you knew you were going to face, how does a game like that, and I mean, even the tough outcome, help you guys later in the season?
Well, it doesn't hurt you. I think my message has been is, you see where you stand, and you get exposed sometimes. It wasn't a pleasant experience on Thanksgiving for sure to go through that, but it was, hey, this is what a really good team looks like right now at this stage in November, and we're not there yet, so we have to get better and do what we can to facilitate that. We haven't hurt ourselves yet. We've won the games we should have won. We've lost to teams that I think will have really good seasons. We just, we got to figure out with the rest of the non-conference schedule where we could win a game that's meaningful and not lose any games that we shouldn't.
Anything on Phillips, how long he might be out?
I mean, it's my best guess. It's going to be later in December, and I would say with the nature of his injury to be on the more conservative side, I would say best case would be the Pac-12 tournaments, Pac-12 conference schedule.
And then defensively, I know you talk about obviously the offense, early season guys getting to know each other, maybe a little bit of the struggles, but how do you feel the team's communicating defensively into this, short sample size, how they've grown or performed?
I think we battled and fought, both games really. Like the offense was very ineffective versus BYU, but that didn't, until the game started getting away from us, we competed, we challenged them, we wanted to pressure them, not make things easy for them, because they're very much a timing team, and if you saw as they shot the ball, if they have any type of opening, the ball's going in the basket. So, I thought we were able to turn them over a little bit. So defensively, we're doing everything we can out there. We just, we're hurting ourselves at the offensive end, and we're not very deep right now. We're just we're trying to develop a bench. We have guys out. It looks like we just lost. Zane Meeks for this game coming up. He's been battling a foot issue that he had, when he got to us the first couple of weeks of the summer. So, we're ultra thin, in certain positions. So we're just trying to do the best we can with it.
What have you thought about the bench? Because different games, different guys that you're using.
Yeah, searching still, trying to figure things out. Kamari Lands, I view as a starter. I know maybe his numbers haven't shown it yet, but he's got the ability to score, and I think he'll help us a lot over the year. Went to Bryant in the Vanderbilt game to get more interior size. After you give up, 18 offensive rebounds, you got to try and maybe do something different, get a little more size on the floor. So that was the only reason I made a lineup change there. And then from there, it's like, Braylon Green showed me some stuff, in the Vanderbilt game, good on the ball defense, hit a couple of shots, didn't try and do anything he couldn't do. So for a freshman, he really, I thought, performed well. Keel Watson also just, he made a layup. He hustled and played with energy. So we'll just see. I mean, every game is going to present us different set of circumstances, and we'll try to continue to develop it.
So you'll either have to play Keel more or play Jose like a 4 in some of these situations if you have your injuries?
Yeah, I think we're gonna, as Bryant goes to the 5, we'll have Alonzo play some 5, and I want to get him at the 4 with Bryant for more size. Kamari already knows the 4, so he'll play some 4, and Keel will get minutes at the 4, and Jose in a pinch. I mean, he's still learning the perimeter, so I'm trying to give him, all the reps at the 3 right now.
How about Frankie's defensive efforts? Obviously, he leads the country in steals or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, it's been great, and he was very locked in both games in Vegas, and kind of willed us to victory against UMass Lowell with the steals, and he's just got natural instincts and nose for the ball and really anticipation, and he's strong and athletic, so that's a really good combination, in terms of being that type of player that could make those plays.
Coach, Jose is obviously one of your better players, but how much did his late arrival kind of delay the team's chemistry and lineup building?
There's always, role, allocation and trying to adjust to a guy that plays a little differently. Like his style of basketball isn't the same as like Frankie and Jemiah, and So those guys understanding where he could be effective, understanding spacing on the floor when he gets the ball, moving without the ball when he has it, because he is a very good passer. If you have an opportunity to basket cut when he has it, especially if our opponent is going to trap him in the post, then there are opportunities. So I think it's, that's where it's an adjustment, for everybody.
So back in Manhattan, he led the team in free throws. He's leading you guys this season after Frankie led you last season in attempts. Like, what does this play? How does it differ now, having, instead of Frankie going to the line for you all the time throughout games, now it's Jose Perez? What does that kind of change your guard play?
Well, I mean, I'm not opposed to Frankie going more than Jose. I think it's just a matter of like his style of game. He's very crafty, understands angles, knows how to get guys off balance a little bit, really uses his footwork, spins, shot fakes, and gets the defense off balance. He just knows how to play.
And bringing in a guy like Perez late, do neutral site games where you're going to some big barstool thing in Chicago or you're going to Vegas, does that differ, like, in terms of helping build team chemistry than just say if you're going to go to Starkville or if you're going to Lawrence, Kansas, or wherever it is? Do those neutral site games help more than just a regular road game, you think, or is it not kind of the same?
From a travel standpoint, you're virtually doing the same thing. It's a little more of a hostile environment in a true road game as opposed to a neutral game, but the guys are generally kind of eating together. We took the team out to dinner the night before we played BYU, so that's an opportunity for guys that haven't had enough time to spend with each other off the court to maybe do some of that. But I think it's good to get away from your home court and have more adversity and a bigger challenge. And that was a part of how we scheduled last year with neutral site games, and that's that's what we did this year as well.
What have been your first impressions this year of just the way Alonzo has been able to overcome that injury really quickly and then have the shooting night that he did?
Yeah, you in your most desperate moments, you're always looking for someone that you can count on and say, wow, because the morale of the group was not good at like midnight of Thanksgiving, and then probably worse at 10 o'clock the next morning at breakfast, and you just feel awful. So you're hoping that someone is gonna step up to the plate and turn things around, and I think he was a big part of that process after the BYU game.
Coach, could that shooting game, like going 7-12 in the first half of 3, is that a way to jumpstart an offense going forward, or is that just a good shooting night?
I mean, I would not allow him to take the threes that I allow him to take if I didn't think that he could make them like that. I've seen it enough in practice and in other games, and if you watch his shot, the mechanics of his shot are pretty elite. And when he is locked in and he's shooting the ball like that, when it leaves his hands, I have tremendous confidence that it's going to go in. So the way our offense is constructed and the team that we have, especially when he's at the 5 spot, I think he's a weapon to make shots, particularly with some bigger players that have a hard time getting out to the 3-point line.
With the injuries, especially at the front court, does his role change in the offense based on who's out there with him?
I just think, yeah, we could spread it a little more, open up the court hopefully a little more, and as we start proving that we're a better shooting team than we've shown the first few games, then I think defenses will have to honor us, from the perimeter more consistently. We've got to get more guys making those type of shots, and I think our offense has the potential to improve. I like that we didn't strictly just settle for jump shots, though. I think our percentages were good, and the percentages of threes we took relative to twos was very good in that Vanderbilt game.
How much do you look at that when you're kind of analyzing a game, kind of 3 percentage?
I mean, I pay attention to it. You don't want to have something be out of proportion, and certainly sometimes it's a measure of how engaged you are if you're settling as opposed to being in attack mode, trying to, and I think the way we were making the threes, was in the flow of our offense. It was off of one cross-court dart that Jose threw right to Zoe for a 3. I mean, that's just good basketball because you're getting a chance to read the defense and the players shooting the ball in rhythm. So it depends the quality of the shot more than overanalyzing those percentages.
Coach, what does Sam Houston State do really well that makes you that makes them such a good team, makes them tough to?
They're a feisty team. They're scrappy. They force over 17 turnovers a game, so they're going to challenge us. They're going to, get some passing lanes. They got good athleticism. They average 29 free throws a game, which is a lot. That's a sign of just how aggressive they are to attack. Kid Barnes on their team is averaging 19 points a game versus their two power conference opponents, Oklahoma State and Ole Miss. So he's performed very well in those type of games. And they're a team that won a lot of games last year, is used to winning, has that winning culture. They were in a one possession loss at Ole Miss, so they're certainly not going to be intimidated in this surrounding.
Do you think this could be one of the toughest overall non-conference schedules that you had?
Possibly, in terms of, especially the opponents that are the quote-unquote bye opponents. There isn't really a breather on our schedule in that regard where you show up and win, especially with what we're dealing with guys being unavailable, whether it's injury related or others.
Anything else? All right.
Cool.
And you heard it right there. Head coach Bobby Hurley talking about his, like you said, the bounce back, and you talked about that there, like not feeling good. I mean, that game was Thanksgiving night. I had obviously was with the fam, me and my sister and brother-in-law. My mom skipped out, but that's okay. Mom wanted to skip out, but we did watch Planes, Trains, and Automobiles, of course, Thanksgiving classic. So for those of you Pitchfork lunchers out there, yes, and Thanksgiving, you can watch it any time of year because it's classic. Any time of year, anytime throughout the holiday season, first and foremost. But watching it on Thanksgiving and being getting home for Thanksgiving movie, and it's classic. It will always be classic. But nonetheless, after that, watching ASU and BYU, it was tough. And fan wise, obviously, you're looking at it, obviously tough for them. And coach said it right there. It's one of those things where they weren't feeling good about themselves, but instead of talking, learn from the game. Yes, you don't have to take much time. You don't have to dwell on it, but the way they got after it against Vanderbilt, absolutely huge. And, and you need that. And then you get the bounce back victory. So yes, BYU, and it's funny because during the broadcast, I didn't mention this yesterday, during the broadcast though, BYU was picked to finish, like 11th or 12th in the Big 12. And the broadcaster is like, I'm paraphrasing, but he wasn't saying it just because what was going on against ASU, but how BYU was playing. He's like, this isn't the 11th best team in the Big 12. So it'll be really interesting to see what ASU's future conference mates do this season as it's just getting underway, as we know, but it's early in the season. But yeah, for Coach Hurley, talk about it, you get the bounce back and to let things come within, like you said, the flow of the game, the good shot there by Alonzo. Yes. And also you did hear there having some players, banged up. St. Meeks obviously not going tonight against Sam Houston State. And he said Frankie Collins too. And real quick, before we get to Alonzo Gaffney, and we'll close the show out with Alonzo Gaffney, Frankie Collins does have 18 steals. Now he does have 16 assists on the season to 14 turnovers. So that's just a natural +2. When they do assist to turnover ratio for point guards, again, +2, obviously not the best, but for point guards, I've always, and I'm not a huge analytics person, but stat wise, I've kind of geeked out, as you know, from volleyball, but about stats, he also has 18 steals. So 16 assists to 18 steals. So that's, 34 combined assists and steals to 14 turnovers. So to me in that, I don't know. I'm not going to call it like a next gen stat, but an overly, nerdy point guard stat, but he's +20. But yes, you do need to cut down on the turnovers. Yes, it is 5 games. So that's just under 3 turnovers a game, which again, as a point guard, you'd love to cut down. Obviously, Frankie Collins be the first to say that. I'm not splitting the atom there on that one. But with the 18 steals, again, leading the conference, he leads the team. But leading the conference so far, and I want to that was Michelle Gardner that had asked a question of AZ Central, but I want to say I looked at it, and unless it changed, with obviously college games last night, it could have changed, but I want to say he was like number 1 or 2 in the nation, for Frankie Collins. And Coach obviously talked about him, getting to the line as well. But I did say Alonzo Gaffney, so we will hear from Sun Devil returner, obviously, Alonzo Gaffney, and Sun Devil forward, But yeah, I mean, just about his thoughts, obviously, on, BYU and, his shooting in that game and, where the team is at, to this point and getting to know each other on the court. Yes, Jose Perez did come in late. Everybody else has been here in the summer, and he addresses that. So I shall let him address that. But without further ado, here is Sun Devil forward Alonzo Gaffney.
Questions.
You ready?
All right, go ahead.
So can you kind of talk about your last game, and obviously after the BYU game, you guys kind of needed to have something go right early, and you were able to kind of set the tone?
Yeah, I give credit to all my teammates on that one. Just finding me in the open spots. I mean, I hit a lot of, like, 5 big threes in the first half, so it was just about getting the right space and getting it open. And guys like Jose, Frankie Collins, Kamari got me in one of those assists too, so it's just about my teammates finding me.
You feel like that had to do with maybe like a mental thing, or do you feel like it was being in the right spot, right time?
Mentally, I just felt comfortable out there. I don't know what it is with me, but like when we're on neutral courts and those NBA type courts, it always feels really good being out there. Gives me that, like, the NCAA feel,
So it kind of gives you that big game atmosphere then, which kind of allows you to walk in a little bit better.
Yeah.
So you're looking forward to a few weeks then with the game at Footprint?
Oh yeah, no, I'm looking forward to that. Yeah.
Can you talk about like the ankle injury or whatever? Because Coach said you had this like miraculous recovery.
Mm-hmm.
First he expected you to be out, and then all of a sudden you're playing.
Yeah, that was kind of crazy. So it was in the scrimmage against San. Yeah, Jose State. But yeah, so I rolled my ankle really bad, and it was like some ligaments in my ankle or whatever. But I don't know what it was, but like in about a week or so, I just started healing really quick, and I was doing some hyperbaric chamber things. I was going to do that, and that helped a lot. So, and I give credit to our trainer, John. He's great too. So yeah, so I just got back really quick, and I was surprised with the recovery too, also. So just a quick recovery.
Are you kind of thinking when that happened, oh crap, here's my last year, and it's going to start this way? Were you just kind of pretty down about that?
Yeah, they're giving me all the options that I either could need surgery, might not need surgery. It's just all gonna come down to the X-rays, and then after the X-rays, they're talking about 3 to 6 weeks. But it was just a pretty fast recovery, and I wanted to play really. I didn't want to miss any games, so I wasn't gonna let that happen. So.
Is the hyperbaric chamber something you use regularly, or was it the first time with this injury?
No, yeah, it wasn't a regular thing. It was something that Coach had brought to my attention, and it became an NIL deal for me. So I got to do that, and it was a life changer for me. It's great. If any other athletes, I would recommend it to them too. It's a great thing.
What's it like going through that first experience, going in the chamber?
It's a different feeling. I mean, you get to watch TV, and it's about an hour to 2 hours long. And and you need to do it about 3 times for you to really start to feel results. So it's just a little time take a little time. But it's a great thing.
So you did it 3 times a week?
Yeah, about 3 times. Before the first game, I did it about 6 times, and then it was feeling good. Yeah.
Can you talk about this year in deciding to come back? And obviously, you guys had a really, really good season last season, but your decision to come back and what you wanted to do this year.
Oh, I just want to win big here. I love Arizona State. I love Coach Hurley. I love the coaching staff, and I couldn't see myself going nowhere else. I feel like they brought me in with open arms 2 years ago, and ever since then it felt like a family here. So I couldn't see myself winning somewhere else. So yeah.
What was the differences between going on the road to neutral site this year versus last year? Like, where do you feel like the outcomes of that differ from maybe a year ago?
The difference is, I mean, it's not a big difference because we had a new group last year, and it was kind of around the same feeling. We were winning more games last year, so at the beginning, so it was kind of like a better feeling. But like this feeling is more. It gives us more hunger going into the games and stuff because we know we're the underdogs, and we're pretty used to that feeling. So just going out there ready to compete.
And Coach has talked obviously about in the early season, maybe little struggles in shooting, but on the defensive end, how do you feel the team is starting to communicate and just kind of pick up where you guys left off last year?
Yeah, I mean, I give credit to Coach Kimbrough because he's a great defensive coach. Our defense never lags, and I feel like in the summer times, that's something that we just pride ourselves in. So when we do open runs in the summer and new guys come in, they just see how intense we are on defense and stuff like that. So that never lacks. And then going into the season, it's no let off.
When you're struggling kind of from 3 early on in the first few games, and you have a game like you did versus Vandy where you go 5-5 in the first half, how do you keep that success going, and how do you keep like just continuing that success from 3 after you have your game like that, while also not allowing yourself to maybe just go cold and just continue to shoot?
It's just about getting up reps, man. Just getting up shots, getting 500 shots up a day. All my career, I've always been a great shooter throughout high school and stuff like that. So these couple games, yeah, it kind of got in my head a little bit about shooting, but it's just about getting the reps up and getting in the open spots and then letting my teammates find me. Just staying comfortable out there.
Do you know that you kind of have that feeling when you're warming up? Do you kind of have a feeling, okay, it's going to be a good day or not a good day? Can you tell?
Nah, not really, not necessarily, because I'm always making shots. It's just in the game, sometimes you get 2 or 3 shots and then they don't go in, so then like your shot selection goes down and stuff like that. But it's not really a thing like that. It's just about getting more reps up throughout the day.
Really talked about kind of the morale of the team's low entering after the game against BYU and then that morning against Vandy. Did you kind of sense that and feel like kind of a need to or an area to step up in?
Yeah, no, I sensed it from both sides, from both teams really. But no, I just felt the need to get up a lot of shots, man. I was feeling it. I was feeling it at the beginning, and I felt comfortable out there to make my shots. So I was just letting them go.
Did you talk to anybody before that about maybe feeling a need to step up, or was it something that you kind of did on your own?
Yeah, Nick Urban, he was on me. He was on me tough, telling me to just be confident, go out there and attack. So that's what I was thinking about.
Alonzo, for the second straight year, kind of like a whole new team at the beginning of the year, kind of working together for the first time. What are some differences or similarities from last year to this year? With the whole new team.
Last year we had older guys coming in. That was the main difference. We had a lot of older guys. It was an older group. This year is pretty young group. Me and Jose being the oldest. Yeah, that's the only difference. You know?
And how is working Jose in to do this kind of such late arrival?
Oh, it's great. Jose, he's a great teammate, great player. He's a willing passer, so I think that helps a lot. And when he first came in, we had probably one of our best passing practices, so all credit to him on that. So he helps our team a lot.
Who's your favorite NBA player? Do you have somebody you pattern yourself after or you like to watch?
Gotta say Kevin Durant is my favorite player. Always will be. But I wouldn't like to say I patterned my game after him. It's just we're long, lanky guys that can shoot the 3 and put the ball on the ground. So.
Coach said when you were when with all these injuries that are happening in the front court right now that he could see you playing a bunch of different roles in the front court.
Yeah.
You know, being a shooter, but also being down low, being a 4 or 5. What have you kind of seen yourself? What kind of role do you see yourself taking in the next 2 games, especially these injuries coming on, and just what kind of coach kind of told you about your role?
We really don't talk about that much. But I'll go out there and do whatever he needs me to do. I could guard 1 through 5. I know the playbook, so whatever he wherever he wants me to be on the court, I could do that for him. You know, so it ain't no surprise or nothing too much on me. So just being ready for my opportunity.
What does the team have to focus on with Sean and Zane both not playing?
Just focus on ourselves and and what we could do to impact the games. We know those guys are out, so and those are 2 big guys and 2 key bigs. So we got to tighten up on our rebounding and stuff like that because BYU out rebounded us. Not want to say Vanderbilt did too, but just keying in on rebounds, playing more physical. You know, because John's a big physical guy, so got to make up for that.
When you go to a game like this where you're without a couple bigs, do you kind of have to have in your back of your mind, don't pick up some fouls quickly because you don't want to lose your aggressiveness, but you don't want to pick up a cheap foul because you're thin at that position.
Yeah. I get that. Yeah, just being in the right space and how to play solid defense. I get a lot of ticky-tack fouls sometimes, and I got to tighten up on that as well. But we got Brian Silvange, so he's a great key big too, and I think he's going to step up a lot in these next couple games.
How's your relationship with Coach Hurley developed over the years?
we've had a great relationship. I love Coach Hurley to death, man. It's just it's a basketball relationship. It's a off the court relationship. I feel like we could talk about anything, really. So, yeah.
You see the team shoot so poorly in the first several games, and then have such a big breakout led by you. What's that feel like? Just kind of the wild swing of that, or was there any sort of frustration generally with the team because of making more shots in practices and games?
Yeah, I think most likely guys are more on themselves. I don't want to say people were mad at each other about anything like that. It's just a self thing, confidence thing. And I'm happy I got to do that for us, and happy I got to open up the net for us and make some shots. So that felt great for me. But going into these next games, I'm ready to see what happens next. What next guy's gonna make a lot of threes.
Anything else?
And there's Alonzo Gaffney. You heard him. And I mean, the hyperbaric chamber. I mean, you've heard athletes, a lot of you, maybe not, maybe you haven't, maybe you have, but a lot of you have heard, athletes, rehabbing with hyperbaric chambers. Actually, and he said, I mean, his was different, ankle 3 hours at a time. Allegedly, I mean, there have been players that have slept in hyperbaric chambers. I don't know if it was like an extended nap, a full night, but and yeah, getting back on the court. And like he said, I mean, he is that long, that 6'9" wing that can, to overstate the obvious, extend the court. And yes, he can hit threes, and he gets in that rhythm. But you also, you want to see him. He can. I shouldn't say want to see him. Definitely, he can. Hit the threes, but get to the hoop. Get to the rim. Bring a lot of traffic down there, and They have length and size, and Coach Hurley talked about it. Obviously, Alonzo addressed it too. The guys that are going to be banged up that can't play tonight against Sam Houston. But yeah, I mean, the game tonight is at Desert Financial Arena, and it is at Desert Financial Arena that they are taking on Sam Houston State. I'm going to get out of here after I get you, the time, as it is 7 p.m. tonight at Desert Financial Arena. So again, if you're going to head out there, get on out there, enjoy it. Again, support this men's team. They are, like I said, 3-2 right now, 2-0 at home. They won both their home games. So I want to keep that unblemished mark at home. And they are 1-2 on neutral site games. So again, but 3-2 early on, and let's see what they can do against Sam Houston State tonight. But it is at 7 p.m. But yeah, I like what Gaffney said there, and he kind of felt it on himself, felt it, but wasn't forcing it. But yeah, wanted to have a big game. And like you said, 5-7 3-pointers that he made. Absolutely awesome. So we'll see what they can do defensively tonight. Again, we'll see the rotations Coach Hurley, puts in, but you should definitely want to get out there 7 p.m. at Desert Financial Arena and check it out. It will also be on the Pac-12 networks and locally ESPN Radio 620 AM or Sirius XM 389. So Pitchfork Lunch, I got you covered wherever you need to check it out. But again, I'm going to get out of here. I want to thank Coach, assistant head coach and special teams coordinator Charlie Ragle from Sun Devil Football for joining me. Obviously, the great insight that he has, on the season, and it's like talking about a myriad of topics. Yes, it was a tough season, and the Territorial Cup is still down south. So nonetheless, it's tough. But I want to always appreciate Coach Ragle and his time that was able to give. He said it's recruiting. It is the recruiting hour. Exit interviews, players coming in and out. So it's always appreciative when Coach Ragle comes on. And then but if you missed any of the show, if you're just joining now, I'm getting out of here. But if you missed any of it, go to YouTube, subscribe to my YouTube channel. It's at M as in Michael, V as in Victory, C as in Cat 005 on YouTube. Subscribe. You can go check out Coach Ragle. Obviously, interviews all coaches and players I have up there. So please go subscribe. I greatly appreciate it. And yeah, hit me up on Twitter at Diablo00. So I'm going to get out of here. I'll see you guys tomorrow. Obviously, same bat time and same bat channel as you know, I'll be back here at noon tomorrow. And yes, wrapping up this hoops game and talking women's hoops, which is going to go on this weekend, and volleyball, Georgia getting ready as they will be playing on Friday. So with that being said, I'm out of here. Everybody have a great rest of your Wednesday. And yes, Sun Devil Nation, you know it. As always, forks up.
Terry's three. Johnny Walker matching up against control. His shot. Bruce score. They score. They tie the game up 2-2. Recent drives out for Robbie Ryan. Her three right on the money. This is Taya Hansen for three. Other side of the rim with a pretty reverse. Wow. 5 seconds to go. By Hawk. Hawk spins. It rolls on. And Arizona State wins it. Edwards pulls off. And buries it. Takes the shot.